Good evening. Welcome to the Willmar City Council meeting for Monday, July 16th, 2007. Roll call.
Mayor Heitke.
Here.
Councilmember Reese.
Here.
Christensen.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Swenson.
Here.
Gardner.
Here.
Dockin.
Here.
Fagerly.
Here.
DeBleek.
Here.
9 present, 0 absent.
Thank you, Kevin. It's our practice to begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this council meeting. I'd like to first of all welcome all the citizens who are here in the chambers, and certainly to all the citizens who are probably watching the live broadcast of this meeting on Rack 8. You are certainly all welcome. This is a historic evening in one sense, and that is that the largest contingency of reserve units are coming back to Minnesota from Iraq. And I don't know that we have any immediately coming into this community, but they are coming in all over Minnesota. And they're arriving tonight and in the next few days. So we certainly welcome back our military personnel back home again and wish those that are heading out Godspeed and safety as they go about their military duty. Tonight, the agenda, we begin the meeting with what's called the consent agenda, and that's a council matter where they look at minutes of meetings that took place between this time and the last city council meeting. There may be some discussion on certain minutes. Then we are going to recognize one of our police officers, Sergeant Julie Asmus. And then we go to the issue that I'm sure many of you are here for, and that is the request to support a development project called West Winds Estate Project. Now let me explain to the audience here that during that presentation, which is number 8 on the agenda, there will probably be several presenters, at least 2 or 3 I'm sure, maybe 4. And then the council will begin their discussion about that matter. I know many of you want to make some comments, and I will allow that. However, I will explain how to do that in an orderly manner at that time. And I do ask your cooperation for an orderly meeting. We always have one, and I just extend that request to the crowd that's here tonight. So thank you very much. So we will now begin our agenda. The first is asking the city council members if anybody wants to make any additions or deletions or changes to the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I think we want to add this issue with Double D Club to the agenda.
All right, for the council members, this is an on-sale liquor license request called the Double D Club, and Mr. Mark Duno will talk about that later in the meeting. Anything else? I think at the end of the meeting I'd like to make some comments myself about a proposed trip that 3 of us from this community have been invited to go on to Mexico. I'd like to explain what that is to the City Council and anyone else who wishes to hear about that. All right, then we will go to the consent agenda.
Move to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Within the consent agenda are the minutes of the last City Council meeting, the minutes of the Utilities Commission of July 9th, the Planning Commission report of July 11th, the Building Inspection report for June, the Housing Task Force minutes of July 9th, the Housing and Redevelopment Authority minutes of June 18th, and the Airport Zoning Board minutes of July 11th. Do any council members wish to discuss any of those minutes? Steve? Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to pull the Planning Commission report for July 11th.
All right. Councilmember Dockin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to pull the HRA minutes of June 18th, 2007.
All right. Anyone else? I'd like to also pull the minutes of the Housing Task Force. I just want to make some comments on that. Any other requests from the council? If not, those in favor of approving the remainder of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask a question regarding item number 3, and I'd like to ask staff. This is an action that the Planning Commission has taken to approve a conditional use permit with conditions. My question has to do with the fact that there is an appeal on another matter that could potentially affect that property, and my question had to do with the 60-day rule. Where are we at in that?
Steve, which property are you talking about here?
We're talking about the Passion Properties, the senior assisted living. That's item number 3 under the
All
Willmar
right,
Planning
thank you.
Commission. Wondering where we're at in terms of the 60-day rule, and is there any potential need to extend for an additional 60 days, being that we have a pending appeal?
Mayor Heike, Council Member Gardner, the 60-day rule has been met for the mast pelletizing project. That 60-day rule was met when the Planning Commission rendered its decision, and the 60-day rule is not furthered by an appeal. That triggers a complete new start to the 60-day rule, so we're in no danger of going past the 60 days and getting a ruling from the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I don't really see any connection between this project and the other project. It's certainly a correlation that some property owners try to draw, but I think we have to proceed with both these requests on parallel tracks and not let them confuse one another.
In talking about the 60-day rule, I'm talking about how it affects the action that the Planning Commission took at this meeting on that property. I wasn't referring to the mast 60 days, but that is currently being appealed. And I know that the folks who are talking about doing this project were saying that basically it's contingent upon the appeal outcome. I'm just wondering if there's any need to extend the 60 days on this particular project.
No, the application by the Worders for their assisted living facility came in approximately mid-June, so we've got till mid-August before the 60 days is an issue there. Plus, the Planning Commission has already made a decision, so the 60-day rule has been met.
Okay, that was my question. I wanted to know if we needed to consider an extension or not. I don't have anything further. I would move to file those minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to file the Willmar Planning Commission minutes of July 11th. I see that we have in the audience Mr. Barry Evans, who's going to be opening a shop here in town. Barry, would you like to give a description of what that business is going to look like? Would you come up to the microphone and just tell us about it? New type of business here in Willmar.
Yes, we are going to be opening, looking at opening a place that would be called Gildays, and it will be a combination of cultural background from the Celtic markets like Irish, Welsh, Scottish, and English, and we may also include German because I'm part German. In addition to having items and merchandise in a retail setting of that, we are intending to have a tea shop, which would be a sit-down, being served tea shop that we would operate. And hoping that this would be started and open this fall.
And Barry, I'm giving you free advertising here.
Yes, thank you.
Where is this going to be located?
It's on 5th Street and Minnesota.
Okay.
And it's the church building, an older church building, and where the, I don't remember the name of it, but the child care center is moving from there to to
First
the
Steps.
Lafayette School, First Steps.
Mhm.
It's in those two buildings that are there.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Evans? Best of luck to you, Barry.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second to file the Planning Commission minutes of July 11th. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Mr. Dockin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I note that Mrs. Gaffney is here. Maybe she can, if you choose to. It's on the last page of the June 18th, 2007 HRA minutes, and it deals, it's item 13, it's West Winds Townhomes. And later this evening, we're going to deal with West Winds Estate Project. And I'm wondering, is it one and the same? Okay. Just want to make the observation that this was approved by 3 individuals from the HRA board, Commissioner Diaz, Chair Novak, and Secretary Honeycutt. And I'm wondering, what is the impact of what was approved here on what we're going to do tonight? Could you give me some? I'm not sure I understand what that's about.
You have to come over to the microphone, Dorothy.
At the June 18th meeting, the Housing and Redevelopment Authority took action passing a resolution in support of the application being submitted by the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership to Minnesota Housing Finance Agency for the tax credit project, as well as the Community Land Trust. And in addition to that, we reallocated funding that was previously committed to the West Winds Estate Project subdivision development to this project that's being proposed.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dorothy, can I, just one quick question? I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but three members is still a quorum of your meeting, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Adding to what Councilman Gardner just commented on, that they are a quorum, but they are unelected, appointed individuals. The last we heard of this project was, I think, Friday or Saturday in the Willmar paper, so we have not really been brought up to speed, so to speak, on this project. So I find that a little troubling. But I'll move to file these minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to file the minutes of the Housing and Redevelopment Authority of June 18th. Further comment? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. My comment about the Housing Task Force Committee is that it has begun. They had their first meeting last week. The 2 co-chairmen of the Mayor's Housing Task Force are John Bjornson, who is the former chairman of the City Planning Commission, and Jolene Hovland, who works for Habitat for Humanity. There are about 20 members on that committee. They will meet twice a month until their work is done. Their task is to review and study all the current ordinances and zoning requirements for housing, both the home-owned and rental housing in the city of Willmar, and make recommendations back to the City Council. I expect that they will probably meet at least 6 or 8 times before their work is completed. But that Housing Task Force has now begun their work. I would ask the Council to approve those minutes.
So we'll move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Housing Task Force minutes of July 9th. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Next, I'd like to call on our Police Chief, Chief Jim Culsett. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. It's nice to see everybody turned out to recognize Sergeant Osmus for being National Law Enforcement Officer of the Year. Julie, I knew you could pack them in. A year ago this last spring, Russ Anderson, who is a retired police sergeant with the Willmar Police Department and also is on the board of the American Legion in town here, came to the Willmar Police Department and encouraged us to submit a name or an application for Law Officer of the Year for the Minnesota American Legion. And in looking at the criteria, It was pretty obvious to me, it was pretty obvious to Russ, and it was pretty obvious to my staff that the individual that should be submitted for that award was Sergeant Julie Osmus, because part of the criteria was community involvement. Not only did you have to have an exemplary law enforcement career, which she has had for the 26 years she's worked for us, but you have to have a record of a lot of community involvement, and all of you sitting there know a lot about Julie's community involvement. So it was a no-brainer. We submitted her application, and as you know, in July of 2006, she received the Minnesota Law Officer of the Year Award from the American Legion, and then her name was submitted on to the National for consideration representing Minnesota, and very seldom do you have an employee who is recognized statewide, much less nationally. So I'm here to tell you, and you probably know, that Julie has been selected as the National Law Enforcement Officer of the Year. She has the nasty job of picking up that award in Reno, Nevada next year, and that's on the American Legion's ticket, too. So we felt that it was very appropriate to invite Julie and Russ Anderson from the Willmar American Legion, and Arnie Ginold, who is the 7th District American Legion commander here, so that you could recognize them. And I think Arnie wants to make a few comments, and I think Russ does, too. So, with your blessing, Mayor?
You bet, Jim. Arnie, come on up.
And if I could just say, the Willmar Police Department and myself are extremely proud of Julie. She's a heck of an asset to the community, and I know you recognize that. And I could go through this long list of why she got this award, but I'll let Arnie touch on some of that.
Welcome, Arnie.
Thank you, Chief. My name is Arnie Ginold. I'm the District Commander of the 7th District Commander of the American Legion. Thank you, Mayor Heike and council members and Chief Colseth. Julie Osmus, American Legion Officer of the Year. We at Post 167, which Julie is a member, submitted her name as Law Officer of the Year in 2006. By the way, you took my thunder away there, Chief. My colleague Russ Anderson, a former law officer in Willmar, worked very hard at gathering information and dialogue pertaining to Julie's career. She was selected from a group of very qualified candidates as Department State Officer of the Year. That took place in Rochester on July 21st of 2006. About a month ago, Julie was informed she had been chosen National Law Officer of the Year. She will accept this honor in August of 2007 in Reno, Nevada. On June 7th, Julie was asked to speak at our 7th District Convention in Wheaton. Even with her busy schedule, she still found time to join us there. By the way, Julie, we are at Post 167 and the whole 7th District are so proud of all you've accomplished. And I want you to have fun in Reno, and I'll see you there.
Thanks, Arnie. Welcome, Russ.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I guess it was about early 1980s that I run the background investigation on Julie. At that time, there was lots of conversation whether the Willmar Police Department, especially with the officers, should have a lady police officer. Julie belonged to the National Guard over at Madison, and after checking with her first sergeant over there, he went over the accomplishments and things she had done there. I didn't really have any question about it, that she could be a cop, and she has been a good one. I worked with her for about 12 years before I retired in '93, and we had our differences at times, but we always settled them, and I consider her a good friend and a good police sergeant now. It was kind of a good thing or an honor to come back to the council meeting tonight, because from about 1966 to about 1986, I would attend in the absence of Chief Lyle Gedderts, who is now deceased. During that time, I remember all deceased mayors now: Ray Peterson, Jack Lynch, Bill Ferguson, Ole Reynolds, and Dan Strutman. He got promoted to captain in 1986, so he took over that job. I remember the city attorneys at that time. First one I remember was Ron Anderson, and then it was L. Wayne Larson, and I just don't remember the year that Rich Ronning started. With that, I say, Julie, congratulations. We're proud of you.
I'd like to enter into the record just a couple of comments, and then I'll offer the chance to Julie. If you want to say something, you're welcome to. You don't have to, but if you want to. Julie has a wide range of involvements within the police department and in our community. She has been able to blend what Chief Culseth said, police work with community involvement, in a very healthy and wide-ranging way. Let me just share with you some of her involvements so that you understand why we think she's a good officer and why she's deserving of this award. She's fully involved in the DARE program in our schools. She supervises our school resource officers. She supervises our CSOs, our community service officers, and their apprenticeship program with Ridgewater College. She supervises a summer bike patrol and safety program. She coordinates special events for the Willmar Police Department, such as Willmar Fest, the county fair, the various runs that take place for fundraising, and most recently Sunshine Fest. And I had the opportunity to ride along with Julie on Saturday night. I think it was Saturday night. We toured the grounds in a golf cart, and it was a great way to get a feel for Sunshine kind of from the inside out. She coordinates the Willmar Police Department Community Notification of Sex Offenders program. She's involved in the Gang Awareness Community Education program. And if any of you have ever been at any of her workshops where she talks about gang awareness and graffiti and what's going on, she knows her stuff. She's involved in the Methamphetamine Awareness Community Education program, the Juvenile Court Liaison program. She supervises crime prevention and community policing activities and many other duties that the chief finds for her to do. Within the community, she's been with the DARE program as an officer for over 15 years. 15 years, and she served on the board of directors of the Minnesota DARE Officers Association. Locally, she's a member of the BPW, the Business and Professional Women, where she's been mentoring young girls for over 10 years. She's a coordinator of Wonder Camp, which is a science and math camp for 5th and 6th grade girls. She's been doing this for over 10 years. She's been president of BPW twice, and she was nominated and selected as Woman of the Year by BPW on one occasion. The thing that I recall about Julie in my mind is most concrete is we had sent off citizens from our community to participate in the Blandon Leadership Program. And we do this, we're fortunate we get scholarships from the Blandon Foundation for this leadership training. And the one year that Julie went off with about 20 other individuals, she came back with some of her citizens and said we needed a YMCA in this program. And it was through that collective leadership of which Julie was a member and kind of a charter member of that organizing group and fundraising group that we now have our beautiful YMCA that I believe has somewhere in the range of 1,200 members and growing. She's worked on the Founders Campaign and the Capital Campaign for the YMCA. She's been involved with the Peace Pipe Girl Scout Council, the Board of Directors for Southwest Minnesota for 6 years, and she's been chair of the Candioi County Capital Campaign for council headquarters in Redwood Falls for the Peace Pipe Girl Scout Council. She served on the Board of Directors for United Way for 5 years, and when she had a little extra time, we invited her to go with us on the All-America City project that we had about 65 citizens work on for nearly a year, and then Julie was one of the 42 of us that went down to Atlanta, and we were able to bring home that award, the All-America City Award, in 2005. So Julie, thank you sincerely for the ways in which you have invested yourself in this community and involved yourself, along with being a full-time police officer. She has connected to the community in many, many ways. So again, our congratulations, and it's an award that's well-deserved. Let's give her another round of applause. And just as I said at the All-America City Award, it's nice to be recognized on a national level for what we do so well on a local level. Julie's a prime example of that. Julie, do you want to make any comments tonight?
Really quick.
I know you're not used to the speaking in public, so.
I would just like to say thank you for the recognition tonight, and it's been an honor to work for the Willmar Police Department. It's a fine department that we're very proud of, and it's an honor to represent the Willmar Post down in Reno, and I just thank them for the opportunity.
Great.
Julie.
We have 4 more seats up front here. Four more seats. Anybody want to come in? We have 3 more seats. Now we're down to 1. All right. We are now down to number 8 on the agenda, which is the request to support West Winds Estate Project and the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership. I'm going to ask Mick just to, you want to make a comment before I call on Rick Goodman? Or should I go to him directly?
Mr. Mayor, only to introduce the subject, I guess Mr. Dockin made a comment about having not had an opportunity to hear more about this project before it came to the City Council. The materials that you received in your packet were received in my office just last week, and I think that the point I would make is that this is the opportunity to hear about the project, and Mr. Goodman has requested to be on the agenda to talk about a proposal he has for a housing development in the southwest part of the community. What action or decisions the council may make tonight, I guess, we'll have a better feel for at the end of the presentation and following the comments from the general public. I know that a lot of people have come in here tonight and signed our clipboard for the public forum, but I'm assuming that most of them were here to talk about this project, so I'm not sure how you want to handle that. But with that, Mr. Goodman is here tonight on behalf of his project, and we'll take whatever time is necessary to explain to the mayor and the council and to the people in attendance here exactly what he's proposing to do.
All right. Rick Goodman, are you here? As you come up to the pulpit, or up to the microphone. That was the wrong choice of words. Up to the microphone. I just want to comment, I had gotten several phone calls and emails today. I didn't get back into town until 6:30 tonight, and I did not have the opportunity to answer anybody, so I apologize for that, but I do have the messages and phone numbers here. Rick, please. Please introduce yourself and then explain what this is all about.
Good evening. My name is Rick Goodyman. I'm the Executive Director of the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership. We're a private nonprofit community development corporation. I'd like to start by stating that this is the very same project that I brought before the council last year, that you did take action to support this project last year, so that's why the short notice. The project involves 51 units, and 15 of those units would be immediate home ownership, 30 of the units would be intermediate home ownership under a lease-to-own concept, and 6 would be permanent rental units. The housing units themselves would be single-family detached and townhome, twin-home duplex units. The project involves what's called a community land trust for a portion of the project, and that involves a grant which purchases the property, the underlying land, and pays for the improvements. The homes are then sold on a 99-year lease with potential of 2 leases for a total of 198 years. The lease does require that the property be maintained in accordance with local practices and the established covenants. And the community land trust does involve 15 immediate for-sale units and 30 lease-to-own units. This is a pretty complicated project in that it involves community land trust and what's called Section 42, which is low-income housing tax credits, which covers 36 of the units are under the Section 42 low-income housing tax credits, and 15 are just under the community land trust. The Section 42 is what's is called the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program, and this provides equity in order to develop rental units that would be affordable for low to moderate income persons. The income restriction on that is 60% of area median income, which then basically can climb, and as long as the people live in that property. The lease to own for the 15 or for the 30 Section 42 units means that when someone rents the property, they enter into a ownership vehicle, and the ownership vehicle acts pretty much like a mortgage. But at the end of 15 years, in Section 42, there's a 15-year compliance period, and at the end of 15 years, it reverts to full home ownership. But during that first 15 years, it's a graduated home ownership vehicle. At the end of that 15 years, then it is fully mortgaged and amortized. The advantages of this, of the community land trust, is it does keep that property permanently affordable. And if you look on your handout, on page 3, the properties at the end of the 15-year compliance period would be sold for $75,000. The total development cost of this project is roughly $180,000. So based on that, the sales price to the end user is $75,000. Without the community land trust, and if someone takes a mortgage on the property for the 30-year period of time, that residual value would be $117,000. So there's roughly a $22,000 differential. Actually, excuse me, a $32,000 differential. So it's a way of making these homes very, very affordable. The site has been noted as in the southwest part of the community. It's on the, should be on south of 19th Avenue. And we have developed the first part of that project with single-family homes, and this would be a mix first of single-family and then going to the twin homes development.
All right, thank you, Rick. Council members, do you have some questions of Mr. Goodman? Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rick, welcome. Couple of questions for you. The project is designed to give some low-income households who can't qualify for home ownership in any other way an opportunity to become homeowners.
That's correct.
That's how I understand that. Several of the things that are a little more detailed within this. The lease purchase process involves some education and orientation. Can you explain some of those?
Certainly, there is a process which would involve homeownership education, mortgage counseling and support services with this project. This community land trust were developed on the East Coast in Vermont and New Hampshire first, and then moved to Ohio. We're following a model that was established in Cleveland, Ohio, where over 400 of these units have been utilized. And there's a very extensive support system that's put into place to help people achieve home ownership. At the same time, the Community Land Trust does establish a vehicle where you can monitor what's happening on the property, you can maintain the property, and you have control over what happens to that property.
So they will enter into not just a lease, but something called a contract of care.
That's correct.
And the homeowners will be, the folks within this property will be required to maintain the property.
And if they do not, they would be asked to vacate the property, yes.
And there will be, in fact, a property manager in charge of ensuring compliance with that, correct?
An on-site manager, yes.
An on-site manager.
That's
okay.
correct. I've also provided some development plans as far as what the sites or what the units would look like, some concepts, and we would utilize the highest materials we possibly can for the longest life, the most durable products that we can, and that would include long life shingles, very durable vinyl or very durable metal siding, or actually we'd probably be using the fiberboard cement siding, so it would be designed to be extremely durable and long-lasting.
And there's a green component to this, some
Exactly.
green building
Yes.
within this as well. And these are slab-on-grade, one-story.
There would also be some two-story, so it's a mix, and we want to have a design that and a diversity so it matches the existing neighborhood.
Now, and that's important. You're trying to make sure that this fits aesthetically within the neighborhood.
That's correct.
Okay. And did I understand you to say that the initial appraised value of each unit was going to be in the neighborhood of some $180,000?
That is correct.
Okay. If I have any other questions, I'll ask them later.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dockin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome, Rick.
Good morning, or good evening.
You mentioned that you have built some houses out on Richland already, right?
That's correct.
How many are out there that you
I
built?
believe there is 9 at this point.
And how many have been sold?
All but 1.
Okay, are they considered affordable housing?
2. Well, we have a purchase agreement on 1, sorry.
Are they considered affordable housing, or is that market rate?
They're considered, their market rate as far as the sales price, but we do have soft secondary mortgage products, entry cost assistance, and below market permanent mortgage products that make them affordable. So the sales price is around $160,000 in those homes.
Okay, so again, you've built how many, and how many are occupied?
We have at this point built 9, and 7 are occupied. 1 we have a purchase agreement on, and 1 is vacant.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Swenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could you explain the 99-year lease?
The 99-year lease is it's through the Community Land Trust, and it's leased to the buyer for $1. And it acts just as so what that does is it takes the cost of the lot and the improvements out of the sales price. So if the developed lot is just as an example, $38,000, that removes it from the sales price, so that does not have to be financed. And it is conveyed, and there are permanent mortgage products that work with community land trusts, so what is financed is the actual improvement on the property, which in this case would be the home.
And what about the option to renew, another 99?
Cindy, could you speak louder, please?
What about the other option, or the option to renew again
It
for
would
99?
renew each time the property is sold. So at each
That's simply to
transaction.
offset the cost?
Pardon?
That's simply to offset the cost
It's to make
to build the house?
what it is, it's to make the home permanently affordable for the next buyer as well, because what it does do is it does hold down the appreciation. So when we sell this home, we allow the home buyer to retain 25% of the appreciation in any capital improvements they make to the property. So that's retained within that land lease.
Could you also comment on another, I saw something else in the paper that it said it would afford people, non-traditional buyers, to afford a home. What does that mean?
This would mean that people who would come into the lease to own, for instance, who would not qualify for a first mortgage at that particular time, would have 15 years or the amount of time until the tax credit project reverted to home ownership to basically become credit worthy and good neighbors. So we would work with those people.
That's non-traditional?
That it would be a non-traditional, and community land trust is a non-traditional product.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome, Rick.
Thank you.
For this project here, you have 51 units proposed?
Yes.
Okay. 5 would be single-family for sale, 10 twin homes for sale, 30 lease to own, and 6 actual rental.
Correct.
Why would you need an on-site manager then? Is this like a planned unit development, and there'd be maintenance fees, or?
Anything over 24 units, we have a on-site manager on any of our rental properties. So it's an internal policy. And for the first 15 years, even though it's a lease to own, it's treated as a rental property. So you put people into a home ownership, but you also have to maintain the property and ensure that things are managed well. Okay. And we believe that we need an on-site manager with a certain number of units to make sure that happens.
And what happens if the units are repoed then?
Repoed?
People are booted out.
Then we would replace that tenant or lease to own.
Okay,
so for the first 15 years, it's treated as a rental property, although there is a graduated steps towards home ownership. But after the 15 years, they enter into a mortgage, and at that point, it's treated as strictly home ownership. If they default on the mortgage or they fail to maintain their land lease, they can be moved out of the property.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
I'm getting signals from the audience that they can't hear all the council members' comments, so please, I'd ask the council members to speak up loudly. Well, they have to turn up their own voices. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome, Rick. I've got a number of questions, and I'm going to kind of divide it in 2 parts, and I'm going to hold my second batch of questions about actually the resolutions that we're going to be asked to vote on. But first of all, are we talking anything in terms of zoning? Are there any zoning issues that are going to come up here, or is it all presently properly zoned?
No, there's a replat, and then there is, I understood as of today, Bruce discovered that a portion of the property needs to be rezoned from R1 to R2 to allow the twin homes.
Okay, so that subject hasn't been broached yet, or you haven't brought that forward?
No, we have not.
Okay. Help me remember what it was that we did last year. My memory is fuzzy. I think we had something in southeast Willmar. Was that you? Is that what we had voted on last year, or?
No, this was the exact same site with the exact same project.
Okay, and our action last year was what?
You voted to support the submission of the application.
To support the application. Okay.
That's correct.
All right. Well, I just want to make one other comment. I agree with Councilmember Dockin that I'm a little disappointed that we didn't know anything about this until it hit the paper on Sunday or Saturday morning. Yes, I got my packet Saturday afternoon, but it sure brought forth a lot of questions, and I felt pretty ill-prepared to answer them because I didn't know any more than what anyone else did, and that bothers me a little bit.
I apologize for that.
Councilmember DeBleek.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rick, you're talking about tenants and people owning these houses. What's your screening process, application process, or how is somebody selected for ownership in one of these properties?
We would do a background criminal check on anybody that would rent or own one of these properties. We would check their credit. We would check for any type of barriers that would prevent them from being a homeowner. And then we would start a counseling process with them. If there's anything that would prevent them from being accepted as a tenant, we would not allow them to enter the property. So it's primarily a criminal background check.
And that carries through for any secondary owners, or?
Anytime there's a change in tenant with these properties, yes.
Okay.
Ready? Councilmember Reese.
Rick, can you maybe help me understand a little bit? I looked at the information that's been given to me, and in the short time I had to review it, it says that the partnership is there for unmet community needs and supplying, making an adequate supply of decent, safe, sanitary, and affordable housing. Within the city of Willmar, I guess the determination to go ahead with this by the partnership, to go ahead with this project, what kind of needs assessment did you go through to determine that there was a need for this type of, and what was the results for this type of housing?
The Willmar Housing Redevelopment Authority and Candido County Housing Redevelopment Authority commissioned a housing study, and we based the recommendations and the housing gaps are identified in the study is why we brought the project forward. And we've been working with both HRAs to tailor this project to meet both the demographic and the income needs that were identified within the housing study, as well as the product needs.
And I guess maybe some of these questions may be directed toward Dorothy in regards to this, and maybe she wants to make some comments on it too. But also, I know that the partnership revives existing homes also.
That is correct.
And I know HRA is also working with that. And I see, it's myself, as an individual in our community, I see a need for reviving some of the older properties. Did you ever entertain that possibility?
In fact, yes, we have. We did support the small cities application that was made last year, and which was funded by the Department of Employment and Economic Development. We also committed $200,000 of our funds to that program to support the HRA's application, which was successful.
And are those for existing homeowners, or is that?
Those are for existing homeowners.
That is for existing homeowners.
Exactly. We also target existing multifamily properties that are in need of rehabilitation. We'll find resources for those as well. So we generally start with preservation, but in the case of Willmar, the housing study did document a need for new production, and that's why we designed this project the way we have.
Well, I don't know, I haven't even talked to staff about this, but I'm aware of a couple properties, and I would guess that there may be more than just the one that have been in the past rental properties. And those properties have been run down to the point that they've been listed in the paper as just being foreclosed on, and the landlord just lets it go.
And we will target those properties when we can and acquire those. We did acquire an 83-unit building in Mankato last week. We've targeted two others, one in Laverne and one in New Prague that we're acquiring from a homeowner that's had some health issues and the properties are deteriorating. The Minnesota Housing Finance Agency contacted us to acquire those properties, and we'll put a similar type of program together. In that case, it's low-income housing tax credits and home rental rehab grant programs and our own resources to rehabilitate those properties.
So do you think that you would be taking those same considerations within Willmar?
If there's a property identified and it's something that's a need within the community and the community would wish us to pursue that, we would, yes.
How do you feel? I don't even quite know how to ask the question. The difference between the project you're proposing and existing structures within the city that are in need. How does that? How does that compare, both on the financing, ownership, long-term rent? Do you do it the same way? And is one a more viable option than the other? And what's the difference between them?
We tend to work with communities, and we'll work on several different projects at once. So in the case of Marshall, for instance, we've done new production. We've done and targeted a dilapidated rental property and are in the process of acquiring that and rehabbing that. We've done downtown revitalization. We've done owner-occupied rehabilitation. We've rehabbed 98 units in the downtown district, very much in partnership with the Economic Development Authority in Marshall. So we can, and where we start is a housing study that's been, a comprehensive housing study that's been completed, and try to hit as many of the needs as possible and bring the resources together. In this particular project, this project works extremely well with a community land trust as twin homes and single-family homes, where it would not work as well in a multifamily apartment building. So it's hitting a segregated need within the housing study, and I'm not in any way disputing that there isn't a need for rehabilitation and preservation of existing affordable rental property within the city of Willmar. There certainly is. In fact, I met with the downtown group last week and discussed some of the preservation issues in your downtown area, as well as the potential of bringing more rental property up to standard in the downtown district to increase the population there. So there's many different ways of approaching this. It's just putting the appropriate resources together to do that.
One more question. And I, like many of the others sitting at this table up here, received a lot of calls today from concerned citizens. And I think their chief concern, and I'm going to qualify my question, I really haven't made my mind up one way or another, and I tell everybody that here, and I'm not going to go emotional on this. I'm going to go on facts, and I'm going to make a decision on how I vote on this. I currently have quite a few homes. I've got 2 of them right in my backyard that were low-income houses, and they're much, much smaller, much less home than what you're proposing here. They're about 900 square feet, or maybe even a little less than that. One without a garage and one with an unattached garage that was built later. And then there's a number of other homes that are behind the homes that are across the street from me that were low-income homes. And over the years, they've transitioned into homes that are no different than any other home within our neighborhood. I can't really say that I've seen any effect, because I built there 25 years ago, an effect on my property and on my value of my property. When you go into a community and you build these types of structures, and the comments that I'm getting from these concerned citizens, that they feel as though this is going to devalue their property. Can you comment on that?
The projects that we have done in other communities in the state, we have done 2 subdivisions with the city of St. Peter, our second subdivision with the city of Marshall. And in all cases, those properties have started out at a significant value higher than what we sold those properties. The resales have continued to appreciate. The designs are well done. There's diversity in the neighborhood. They're all mixed income neighborhoods where people of higher income, moderate income, and even some low-income people have purchased homes in those communities, and you cannot tell the difference between what the income demographic of the owner is from the next-door neighbor. So we pride ourselves on developing a good product that is durable and will maintain its value, as well as a well-thought-out design with a diversity of housing. So we do put our money where our mouth is. I would welcome anybody to call the cities of Montevideo, Marshall, St. Peter, Windham, Laverne, Jackson, Worthington. Please give them a call. We do not create slums. We're very cognizant of the type of housing that we do. We want to do it well. We want to provide an asset for the community, and we want to develop a product that appreciates for the buyer. When we first started doing this in 1994, we worked with McKnight Foundation. We developed 4 homes, and I think we approach this as any other developer does, which is to design a product that is affordable to an entry-level worker. And we quickly found out that what we were producing was not an asset to the community, did not appreciate for the buyer, and made absolutely no sense to do it. So we backed off of that, began developing a good quality entry-level product, and used financing to make it affordable. And the reason we're in this market is local builders would not build homes that would sell for what, even with some of the mortgage products that we had for entry level, they were much more interested in building homes at the $200,000 level rather than the 120, 130, 140. Now we're up to 160, which blows my mind away as being affordable, but that's what it costs to produce these housing units at this point.
All right, thank you. I'm going to call on a couple other council members. Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rick, I wanted to go to this idea of exactly who is a low-income household. One of the things that I think I'm hearing is that everyone who's going to go into this product, first of all, they've got to have an income. They've got to be working.
That's correct.
And part of this is served on the basis of a 60% of area median income.
The Section 42 is 60%, but then those incomes can rise.
Okay. So it starts out at, for example, for a family of 4, let's say, that wants to get into a product like that, they need to be making or can make up to about $34,500.
That's correct.
Okay. And then as they presumably, advance in their jobs, maybe get a different job, get a promotion, those incomes are going to rise, and they're still going to be able to be in this product.
That is correct.
And if they decided that product wasn't for them, they might still be able to get then into a conventional.
That's also correct,
home.
yes.
Okay. What types of payments are we going to be looking at, for example, in that instance, for a family of 4?
I would like to add one other thing to your comment. Under the Community Land Trust, people's incomes would be 80% of statewide, and that's roughly $58,000. So we're talking about 2 different income restrictions.
So there would be a maximum thereafter.
For the immediately for sale homes would be $58,000. So there's a different, whether it's Section 42, which is low-income housing tax credits, or the Community Land Trust, which is higher.
And those are, was it 5, is it, that are immediately for sale?
There's actually 15.
15? Okay.
Yes.
And they have to make up to, need to make up to $58,000.
They could make up to $58,000, but they also have to qualify for a mortgage product, so they have to have good credit.
And the same screening process is going to apply, and so on and so forth.
That's correct.
Okay. And then back to my previous question about the payments. Under this Section 42, in that instance, for, say, a 3-bedroom at that 60% level.
The rents, including utilities, would have to be less than $647.
Okay. Okay. So it's still it's still substantial. I mean, we're not giving anybody anything
That's correct.
here. We're just giving them an opportunity.
This is not public housing.
To pull themselves up out of perhaps a poverty level situation and into something where they can gain some appreciation, build some assets.
And that's what the low-income housing tax credit program was designed for.
Okay.
It was actually an answer to public housing, in that people pay full rent, and it's a development subsidy rather than a rental subsidy.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome, Rick.
Thanks, Ron.
These projects you had in these other cities you listed to us that Doug was asking about earlier, did they involve a community land trust?
No.
Is this the first community land trust you're doing?
This is the first community land trust in the southwest part of the region, yes.
That you're doing?
That's
first
correct.
one you've done?
That's right.
And the community land trust, you said the asking price for these homes for these people is going to be $75,000.
That would be at the end. That would be at the end of 15 years under the lease to own. Under the straight land trust, it would be, if you take out roughly let's say $40,000 for the, and I didn't bring all the numbers with me, but if you bring out the cost of the lot, let's say it's $38,000, that would be roughly $152,000 that have to be financed.
So
or 100, excuse me, 142.
We really can't compare these projects that you told us about to this land trust. This is...
It would be the same product, though.
It's a product, but it's... the people that would purchase them probably aren't going to be the same people that purchased in these other projects. These are going to be lower income people. So what I'm getting at is we can't compare these two. These are not apples to apples, these two projects. This one to the Richland Avenue one that you did out in southwest Willmar in the last 3-4 years.
Some of the incomes would be very, very similar.
Yeah, but it's geared toward low-income people.
Well, what it's doing, when we first started building houses in St. Peter and Marshall, our sales prices were around $100,000. And that was...
How many years ago was that?
That was 2000, 2001.
Okay.
So there's been a huge, as you know, there's been a huge escalation. And essentially all we're doing with the land trust is trying to bring these down to an approximate level of affordability. So we're really not changing the buyers' profiles as much, because as you know, incomes have not raised. And what's happening is more and more people are being forced out of the home ownership market because of increasing cost of housing. There are 8 community land trusts in the state of Minnesota at this point. We're working with several of them, including First Homes and Northern Communities Land Trust, Duluth, to put this together. So there is quite a bit of expertise, and if you look at the housing products that have been done by First Homes or Northern Communities Land Trust, they are a quality product. And in fact, we have much more control with the Community Land Trust over the owners than you would under a conventional product, because the Land Trust does give us the right to monitor what happens to that home, what happens in that neighborhood, and what happens to the lot.
What you've attempted to do on Richland Avenue Southwest in the past few years was very similar to this project. From what it was explained back in 2003, I believe it was, these were for affordable homes for first-time buyers or people who couldn't afford down payments, and you had several 4 or 5 financing avenues for these people. Of the 7 that were sold on Richland Avenue, how many utilized any of these financing products?
I don't have those numbers with me, but most of them did.
They did?
Yes, at least the entry cost assistance. And they used the CASA and the participation loan programs.
Where did they borrow the money from to buy the home?
They borrowed the homes from, or borrowed the funds from the local banks.
Okay, so it was market rate housing, and these people borrowed from local banks to get into these houses.
But what they utilized was a product through Minnesota Housing Finance Agency, which is called CASA.
Right, or they could have moved into a home that I may have built on Richland Avenue for them without you coming here and competing with local contractors for the same price at the same bank and afforded those homes. I mean, several of them are sitting in the audience tonight. On with my questions. Who actually owns the property?
It would be owned by a community land trust, which would be a private nonprofit organization.
And who pays the property taxes?
That organization.
The land trust?
Yes.
And what values would these particular homes have what would they be valued at for tax purposes?
They would be valued the same as any other single-family or duplex unit.
They would be assessed by our department then?
That's
and
correct.
Valued at $170,000 plus?
That's correct.
Okay. Fill me in a little about the tax credits that are involved in a project like this. I read that in the newspaper and in this handout you had for us. What does that involve and who actually buys tax credits? Who would invest something like that?
The federal government gives an allocation of low-income housing tax credits to the state of Minnesota, and it's based on a pro rata share of the population of the Minnesota in relation to the United States. Those tax credits are allocated to a eligible project that gets significant points within the state of Minnesota to receive the allocation. We then take those tax credits and we sell those to investors who, right now we're making 90 cents on the dollar, so every dollar of tax credits that we sell, we get 90 cents back for the tax credit. We then put that 90 cents into the project, so that would come in as equity into the project.
And what is the value then of the investment by these, buying these tax credits? What's the value to the end buyer?
They take $1 off of their income taxes.
For how much investment? 90 cents?
Right. So they pay 90 cents, they get $1 worth of deduction.
My original question, that who would buy tax credits like this? I mean, can I buy them?
You can buy them. Individuals buy them. The Ford Corporation buys them. Insurance companies buy them. Banks buy them. They are actually very, very competitive and easy to sell.
Do you know of any other programs that these particular people would be eligible for to buy a home? Are there any other programs from the federal government or the state or local participation besides what you're offering here? Are there other places people can go with that income, $58,000 or less, and borrow money and get into a new home?
Certainly.
And could you name a few of them?
There are products through rural development that they would potentially qualify depending on the price of the product. There are products through Minnesota Housing Finance Agency, which we also offer. We also offer rural development products. There's certainly some existing for sale property that may work.
So you're really not offering anything new because there are other programs. I spoke to a banker and they told me there's many, many programs, pages of them, that are available to people that have low income and can't afford, mostly it's the down payment. But so you're not really offering something new. There's many programs out there that people could use to purchase these homes or other homes.
Well, we are offering something new in the fact that there isn't a community land trust, which does significantly reduce the sales price of a home, as well as a Section 42 where you take the equity out and you can produce an affordable product and keep it affordable over the long term. So that's what we're offering.
Is there a waiting list of people to get into these homes that we don't know about?
We haven't done any specific marketing because we, at this point, don't have a project really to market. So we're talking about a concept, putting the financing together. We know what we will do if we are awarded the tax credits and the community land trust, and at that point we would start marketing, and probably marketing through the employers.
Possibly would it be tenants in privately owned rental units in Willmar that might apply for that and get into something like that?
It could be people that are in public housing. It could be people that are renting in community. It could be people moving into the community. It could be the new school teacher. It could be the new police officer. It could be many different people working in the medical field. All those people would potentially qualify.
The last time we did something like this, I believe, was Valley View Townhomes, and I know there was a rush out of the apartments, privately owned apartment houses in Willmar, and they lost a lot of tenants because of that.
That could also have to do with what happened in the single family and the mortgage falling, or was that about the same time? I don't remember exactly when that happened. But
are you aware that the latest data we received says Willmar is shrinking in population?
It showed, what I've seen is it was projected to have a small or slow growth, but there has also been a lot of discussion about increasing employment opportunities within the community.
but are you aware that the latest data says we are shrinking? Were you aware of that before tonight?
No.
Okay, we got it from our city administrator recently. This study that you mentioned earlier, housing study that the HRA did, what year was that completed?
I think it was completed 2 years ago, but 2006? 2006, last year.
Was that like January 2006 or December 2000? April 2006? Okay, we're into July of 2007, and much has changed since April of 2006. Presently, in the city limits of Willmar, we have well over 170 empty lots in developments that are waiting to be built on, and will probably wait quite a while. We have in excess of 25 to 30 empty homes for sale, never been lived in Willmar. We have an abundance of old housing stock, east side of Willmar, north side of Willmar, that needs fixing, updating. These people certainly could move into there, put some sweat equity into it, and help fix, paint, do whatever they have to do to put in this, to get into these homes. I would hate to see another development in Willmar sit with another 51, 31, 40 lots, however many would be finished in this particular development. But personally, I don't see the need for it. I haven't been convinced there's a need. First of all, you're selling a product here. We don't know who the buyers are going to be yet. I think they're going to come out of apartment houses in Willmar and leave some of these landlords stranded. So a lot has changed since 2006, and I would urge my councilman to think about what I have stated and to oppose this resolution based on those facts.
All right. Anything else, Ron?
Yes, please. I haven't seen the need proven yet for building this particular development. I'm not sure if I understand the community land trust. I know you explained it, but there's still a lot of, it seems like it's pretty detailed. There's a lot of specifics in there that we don't know about. The project on Richland Avenue, again, I'll bring that up. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 lots still for sale out there. You started that in 2004 spring, I think, or 2003. You've sold 7. There's 2 empty. They're going on their 3rd year of being empty out there. The property that you're speaking about putting this development in has been poorly maintained. Many of my neighbors out there live right on that property line. And they have had to call 2, 3, 4 times per summer the last several years to get that maintained. And I blame that on what I would call, I guess, a landlord that doesn't live in the city limits of Willmar. When you don't live here and you own property, sometimes you let it go. We have that problem in other apartment-owned buildings in Willmar with absentee landlords. It's a proven fact that low-income housing will devalue neighboring homes, and anyone who would argue to that fact, we have several realtors in the audience. They could tell you what effect it would have on the existing homes out there. I also don't hear any public outcry for this type of housing. I speak those words many times when staff or the state mandates something or some policies brought to us. So much of it is not brought by the public, but from the government side of it, or from foundations. And lastly, I think that Willmar's been well served by its local developers and contractors. I think we're taking care of the housing needs in Willmar, and if there was a need for this type of housing, we would have more apartments being built presently. So I'm not convinced the need is there. Thank you for coming.
We will have order in this room, or else I will clear the chambers. Is that understood? I will clear the chambers if we don't have order in this room. Councilmember Dockin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Councilmember Christensen covered many of the things I wanted to talk about the second time around, and also Councilmember Reese on the number of lots that we have available in town, the number of homes that need to be fixed up. It's really, for a person my age, who's owned my home now for 32 years, it's hard for me to understand how a $180,000 house can be affordable housing. I think if we were to poll many of the folks that are 50, 60, 70 years old that may be in here tonight, they started with a much less costly home. They fixed it up, they built some equity into it, they sold it, and then they moved into another house. As they progressed in their employment and made more money, they were able to do this. This is hard for me to understand how someone can afford a $180,000 home that's low income. That, just to me, I can't fathom that, and want to align myself with Councilmember Christensen and saying that I cannot support this.
All right. We've heard from Mr. Goodeman, and we've heard from many of our council members. Now I will thank you, Rick. Please don't leave the room. I'd like to offer the opportunity to our citizens, both those who are questioning this and those who may support it, to please indicate your interest to speak to the council. Just raise your hand, and I'll call you up to the microphone. When you come up to the microphone, introduce yourself, your name, and your address for the public record. Gary, come on up.
My name is Gary Peterson. I live on 15th Street Southwest. 7 years ago, we purchased our home on 15th Street. A year later, we also purchased the remaining 35 acres of West Wind Addition in our backyard that had not been platted. 2 years after that, we were approached by Mr. Goodeman to sell 12 acres on the north end of our property. We still live in the area and care about what would happen to the land and what it would be used for. We asked them about their intentions and were shown pictures of single-family homes with double garages. We were fine with that plan, but still wanted to be certain our desires would be followed as far as future street placement. The street configuration was written into the purchase agreement. A year ago, they announced plans for a low and very low-income housing project on the property. Of course, there was a huge concern from the neighborhood. I personally visited every home around the property, explaining what was happening and what was being done to stop it. So I've met with most of the people in this room, and some 3, 4, and 5 times. Later, when they get up to speak later, I know what they will be saying. Many of them will be saying, if this is allowed to go through, I will definitely be moving. Many said that. Others said, I built here last year expecting a big park in my backyard or across the street. You mean that's going to change? One person called Mr. Goodeman directly to ask him not to do the project and was told, we're going to do this project and there is nothing you can do to stop it. At that point, I hired the Rinke Noonan law firm from St. Cloud. After correspondence with the law firm, Mr. Goodeman acknowledged the street configuration in the purchase agreement and also acknowledged that the proposed plat did not comply. I thought that the matter was closed and that they would be forced to abandon the project. They've now come back and are trying to move the project forward. However, there are several major hurdles that they will have to overcome. The first is the street configuration and the purchase agreement. I sold them this land, and I take full responsibility for this situation. And I say to my neighbors that you have my pledge that I will spend whatever it takes to challenge this in the court system. A second, even bigger hurdle exists. When the Danielsons developed this area 20 years ago, they had a vision for what the neighborhood should be. To assure that only single-family homes would be built here, they had around 40 acres zoned as R1. That included all the lots on 15th Street and much of the open field behind them. I met with Megan Sauer, the city planner, this afternoon. This is where the knowledge of the current zoning situation came up. She roughly estimated that 2/3 of this parcel that we're talking about is currently zoned R1. Therefore, this project cannot move forward without having this parcel rezoned. The Planning Commission and the City Council agreed with the Danielson's vision for this area 20 years ago. If this parcel were to be rezoned in the future, it would be a breach of the commitment the city made to those who built here and to those of us who later bought homes here. The purpose of this meeting is to get the city to support the concept of a low and very low income housing project in this neighborhood. The neighbors around this area unanimously ask you to honor your commitment that you made to us 20 years ago and to reject this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Anyone else wish to make a comment or ask a question? Come on up, please.
My name is Gary Paulson, and I live 1812 Southwest 23rd Avenue. I border this property. First of all, this property really is in a retirement neighborhood. And I went on my bike this afternoon. I just counted the homes on 20th Street, which is the north-south street that is one block to the west, 22nd Avenue and 23rd Avenue. I came up with a total of 38 homes. 31 of which, I may have one wrong here, but 31 of which I believe are owned by retired people. And they bought this property, some cases 1 or 2 years ago, other cases, I suspect, Ron, you could help me with 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. And they bought it with the knowledge of forethought that the field to the east would be developed in homes of like quality, value, price, etc. And there would be a park there. If you look at the 3 directions that surround this field, west of the field where we live, average home value is in excess, well in excess of $200,000. To the east on 15th Street, well in excess of $300,000, and I think there are some that are in excess of $500,000. To the north of the field where they had their beginning development, we're looking at something around, as he said, $170,000, but we saw advertisements in the paper of substantially higher figures that they were trying to sell these properties for. Will this lower the price and the value of, not the price, but the values of the homes in the adjoining neighborhood? I think so, and I'll tell you why. I looked on the internet, happened to come up with an article by RE/MAX. These people sell homes. And they said there are a number of reasons why homes don't sell. And I'll cut to the chase. One of them was location, location, location. It says it's the oldest cliche in the world, but it's true. When it comes to real estate, it's all about location. When it comes to homes, things like how good the schools are, crime rates, visual appeal to the neighborhood, noise or the smell of pollution can all affect how desirable location is. If you're in a bad location, a good real estate agent may help you minimize some of the impact by suggesting improvements. But the only real way to overcome a bad location is with a lower price. Simply put, an identical property in a bad location won't sell for as much as a same home in a better location. And anybody that disputes it, I think, is not being realistic. I think the City Council needs to support the wishes of those, many of whom are in this room, who have contributed so much to this community through a lifetime of work and commitment, and not an attempt to satisfy a perceived need, which we wonder is in fact real, and thereby erase much of what we've all spent our lives working for. Please, in the interest of all that's fair, do not approve this request from outside sources who have already proven to be irresponsible, absentee landlords. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members.
Thank you, Gary. Other comments? Anybody else wish to say something or ask something? Please come on up. Good evening.
I think I'm the only one here from the east side of town.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Doreen Magnuson. I live on 4th Street Southeast, Willmar. The last three rows, hopefully I'm not going to be repeating too many things that were said, because the last three rows had a very hard time hearing the council members. But Mayor Heitke and council members, first of all, when I read the article in the paper on Saturday, I thought to myself, wow, low income. Next one, low income. And I'm going, my goodness, I've heard low income many times, but I've never heard low. Next statement I heard from one of the people that spoke was, who can live in these dwellings? He went on to say, police officers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going to myself, that's a little bit disgraceful to say that we'd have to put a low-income housing for our police. What I want to know is, what do we in Willmar consider low income? What do we consider low income? And what is the City Council and the City of Willmar, our forefathers, going to do about, quote, low income? Because with what we have in Willmar, that is what is going to bring it in. I'm fortunate enough to have a wonderful employer. I love my job, and I've been there many, many years. But because we live on the east side of town, it has taken us many years, many hours, and least to say a few dollars to keep our property up. Around us we have a lot of, quote, low income, or people that do not want to take care of the property, and they get by with it. We have grain trucks sitting in the back of one property, and as you would drive around, we would all have to be very, very blind not to see the condition of our town. I was born here, I was raised, I left, I've lived around the United States of America, I've been through Canada, and it's really sad to move back and see what has happened, what is happening. I'm far from prejudiced, I'm not, but I'm a hard-working lady. My husband's a hard-working person. I think everybody in this room here is working very hard. They're working hard to pay their taxes. Now, as I see it, this project is to be carried on with, quote, government money. Who is the government? The taxpayer, correct? So are we supposed to sit back and say, okay, you know, we're going to let all this take place? I'm not for it, because there are so many homes around Willmar that can get fixed up and used for what the paper said was low and low income. Whatever that is, I have no idea. So I'm just asking the council, as an East Sider, to put your fingers out around Willmar, and we all know what's out there. If we don't see it, we're very, very blind. Yes, we are to take care of our people, but in return, we want them to work. We want them to take care of their property so that we can be proud of our property. I know that our value is not where it should be because of what we're surrounded by, but does that stop me from keeping my property up? No. So I do ask the council to reconsider the beautiful homes that are on the west side and all around Willmar. What are you going to put in that neighborhood? What is it going to do to the young people that have to work 2 jobs to keep keep their houses up. I know my 3 minutes is up. I know I've spoken out, but I really, my age, I'm a senior citizen and over. So I look at these young people that are 30, 40 years old, trying to keep up with their property taxes. Quote, the paper said they were going to be going up 50%, probably 40% in the next 10 years. What are they going to do? Where are they going to go? So I'm just asking you to deeply consider what this project is all about and where are these people going to come from that are going to be living in low-income houses. That's all I'm asking. Are they here already? Or are they going to be coming in and coming in? Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor.
Please, come on over.
Hi, I'm Kip Ovison. I live at 2116 21st Avenue Southwest. And I'm not convinced that I see the need for this in our neighborhood or in this town. I think there's a lot of lower cost homes out there. Call them fixer-uppers if you want. My wife and I, we started out with nothing. We worked hard. We moved into a 1,080 square foot home. It was $23,000. We put a lot of sweat equity into it. We fixed it up. As our careers moved on, we made some more money. We were able to look for another home. While we could sell that one with all the work we put into it, we got a little bit for the next home. And we did the same thing, and we didn't start out moving into a $180,000 home. For one, I don't think we could have maintained it as well as we should have. So I don't really see that there's a need for this when we have these homes for sale in town here, and I think there's a lot of avenues for people to get loans. We were able to get a loan with no money down, and we had very little credit of any credit at all because we hadn't been working very long, but I think there's a lot of other avenues, and I think there's a lot of places in town here that could be sold instead.
Thank you, Kip.
That's all I got.
Anyone else? Come on up. Good evening.
Thank you. I'm Jim Mahler. I live at 2001 23rd Avenue Southwest. I think these are complex issues, why the council gets paid big bucks.
That's what.
I recall hearing yesterday the New Testament parable about the Good Samaritan. And I think the perspective of the needs of people without many means needs to be considered along with the needs of the majority of us that are here tonight that have enjoyed home ownership for some time. The context of Willmar makes this a very difficult decision. The facts that you've heard tonight and the perspectives you've heard tonight make this a very difficult decision. I think if we can, with some sensitivity, design ways for more people to be homeowners, even if it means a flood from the apartments, I think would be valuable for Willmar and would in the long run improve our housing stock. I'm not sure that having an enclave of low-income housing is the answer, but I would hope that you would search for other answers. People have mentioned housing stock around the city that might be available. If we could design some ways to educate and facilitate and fund a variety of housing throughout our city. I hope as you decide this that you will not just yes or no and put it aside, but that you will continue to strive to develop affordable home ownership that people can take pride in. To say that people don't want to maintain their houses, I think is not the perspective I would share, but rather we need to help facilitate pride of ownership and care for all of our population rather than only our current home ownership. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else wish to talk? Steve?
My name is Steve Rehnquist. I work at 312 4th Street Southwest, and I work for the Economic Development Commission that's employed by the city and the county. As far as this housing project goes, I would, it's a little bit of a cliche, but I would say if not now, when? And if not here, where? And my reason for saying that is there's people I know and respect telling me and us that we don't need this project. But there's people I know and then respect that are professionals in the industry that did a housing study, and I acknowledge that it's 15, 16 months old, but that clearly showed a demand. There's people that I know and respect produce the statistics that show Monday through Friday the adult population in Willmar practically doubles because of the jobs we've created and the people that we bring to town. And we lament over what's arguably, I think, are wrong, but a reducing population. But yet we have an opportunity of almost 6,000 people to sell, to move into housing, whether they be for sale or for rent units. And those figures are there for everyone to see. They're not somebody's trumped up figures. I know and I respect Rick Goodyman. I've known him for a long time, well before having come to Willmar. I can tell you, if you go to the list of the cities that he's mentioned tonight, and if you ask what type of a person is Rick Goodyman and what type of organization is the Southwest Housing Partnership, you will receive accolades. He's done his job well. Now, I don't know about some issues here in Willmar, but do not disrespect the man or his organization for what he's done and what he could be doing for us. Now, why that people say, well, not people say, the facts are there's a large number of houses available in town. I could tell you people prefer to buy new if they can. I mean, there are certain things that are self-evident to all of us. I don't know the reasons why. The housing stock, the location, what have you. And I won't even comment on questions about the nature of people that are ostensibly in low-income situation. I could tell you that many of us in our lives at one time were right there. And it's just absolutely bogus to think that somebody cannot live a good life and improve their life. So at this point, I would say, if you didn't know Willmar, and if just say about 6 weeks ago you started reading the papers, you would see that we're against a new industry in a certain location. Some of us are against a mental health hospital for people that are in favor of it. And now a whole bunch of us are against housing. I'd like to say we need to make a stand about what we're for in Willmar, not what we're opposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. This gentleman.
I'm a little big to be squeezing through there. My name is Oscar Oaks. I live at 1605 Richland Avenue. For any people that don't know where that is, the park that is supposed to be going in would be directly out of my backyard. Also adjacent to my property along the side is the drainage runoff pond, another reason why we purchased the land. We came here last year to build about a year and a half ago. Purchased the property mostly solely upon the neighborhood. There was the Southwest Minnesota housings there that had already been developed. I'm a general contractor. I built the house myself. Looking at the neighborhood as somebody who's never been in there, a very well-developed neighborhood. The houses did not clash with what was there. You know, you go down the street and you have $500,000 homes. You know, you come down the other side of the street and you have other homes that are priced $180. You know, very common. My house personally, we were trying to sell. It was a spec home originally. It was priced to sell at $259,900. We were not able to sell it. A a lot of that was because of the neighboring area. Now other homes have come in that are being built by other people. I'm not sure if Christensen's one, but there's also another development that's being down there that's a higher income. So what you have is you have a neighborhood that's engulfed with higher income, lower, I don't want to say low income, because most of the people that bought these homes didn't do it through low income. As far as I'm aware, most of them were first-time home buyers. I don't know if everybody here knows what the state of Minnesota considers first-time home buyers, but it's anyone that hasn't purchased a home in 2 years, not somebody that's never purchased a home ever. So you have people that are coming. Most of the people that bought these homes are well-established people in Willmar. One of them, also on top of that, we also have 2 daycares that are presently just in that immediate area in Richland Avenue. One is run by my wife in our home, and another one is 2 or 3 houses down. My main concern is, how are we going to justify to people to come into our home as a business when there's low-income housing? I don't have a problem against low-income housing. I grew up in low-income housing. I've come from dirt poor, and I've scratched my way up as best I could, and now I'm living in a great neighborhood in a very nice home. And we say we can control who's living in these homes with the screening process, but my concerns are what happens when the lady that moves in has a boyfriend that decides to come and live there. What happens when a guy has a bunch of his buddies living in the neighborhood? We can't control that sort of thing. We can't even control it in rental properties, with people that are regular landlords in the area. We have many people that are landlords in the audience right now, and some things you just can't control. You can't be in that house every minute knowing who's living there. That's one of my main concerns, the safety of our children in the neighborhood, in the daycares. It's just one of the main concerns, and not only that, but also the value of my home. I purchased it, or I built it, I should say, and I purchased the land accordingly to what I was told was going to be there. There was going to be a park, and my lot next to me, the pond, was going to stay there. That to me was a big selling point, and the reason that I chose that area, because within 2 years we wanted to sell and collect the equity that we had built in 2 years. With this going in, there'll be an automatic flush and surge of people that my property value will go down. Maybe not even if you consider it going down from the people or the homes that are being built there, but with the enclave of the homes. With so many homes being available, why would they buy one that is $200,000 more than what they can buy it for? That's another issue. One other issue that I have is what's considered low-income housing. When they talk about the numbers, almost close to $50,000. Well, I'm guessing, I don't know what you classify that as, but if that's done off of their net income, off of their tax returns, I made $50,000 last year, and I live in a close to $300,000 home. And I can afford it very easily. So, are we giving them a step up, or are we giving them 3 or 4 steps up? There's very affordable homes in the neighboring communities. I moved last year from Renville, and I owned a 3,000 square foot house with 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, and I bought it for $65,000 within 25 minutes driving distance. There's probably 30 homes in Renville for sale that are around that same area. So I just would stress to the council to think about those areas being commutable, very commutable. If you go to the cities, people commute an hour to get to their jobs. So there's plenty of housing out there that's available. Thank you, council.
Thank you, Oscar. Other folks? Anybody else? Please come on up.
I'm Joe Redler. I live at 1912 20th Avenue Southwest. I guess last year, this group of people that come with the shock and awe on the community, they pulled the same thing last year on us. I don't quite understand what they're shocking off. It's such a great thing for the community. Why isn't there more talk and hoopla of this? I don't think as a salesman, the shock and awe is the best thing for people. If we go into a program like this, this is part of the community forever. I mean, you got to think about that. This isn't something we're going to put up and take down. So, I mean, this is a long-term commitment. The other thing, when you get into these programs, who is responsible for the maintenance? When I talk about maintenance, 15 years the road needs to get replaced. Who's responsible for the charge on that? Is the city, being it's a government program? Furthermore, in our community, if we have these HUD houses, HRA, whatever they are, or HR programs, on those roads, who's responsible for those? I think we need to take a look at how many government programs we really have going in this community. And I don't think it's fair to put all the burden on your individuals that own the houses in your businesses. If I'm not mistaken, you have somewhere right around 575 houses. Is that correct? How many meters do we read?
5,000.
5,000, excuse me. How many meters do we read? Mel, how many meters do we read?
Between 7,000 and 8,000.
Okay, so that means you have, what, 22,000 some hundred people that are not paying their fair share of maintenance in this city. I don't know if I'm making any sense to you people at all, but I'm telling you, there are so many programs within the city that I don't think people are paying their fair share. And if you get into a program like this, and they're looking at offsetting the expense of the land and the assessments, am I not correct? And the other thing is, how did this get past our building committee? I mean, when I'm hearing they don't even qualify for the right zoning and different things, how did he get past that? I'd like to know that, because there's a lot of things that get passed through our building people, and we have people on that committee, I'm sorry, frankly, don't know building. And I think that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Anyone else? Anyone in the hallway want to talk? Anybody out back there want to talk? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Christensen. I wasn't going to come up and speak because a lot of the things were kind of said, but I'll repeat a few of them. I live at 701 Southwest 14th. I've lived in Willmar all my life, same place, born and raised there, love Willmar, love where I live. I went to get my oil changed on Saturday, picked up the paper, and I read this on the front page, and I was just furious. I was ready to go home. I've called most of you and talked to you. I left a message at most of the places. But I was ready to go home, pack up, and leave. I was just furious. Housing is soft. Contractors, a lot of them are looking for work. I'm in business with my brother Ron and brother Todd, Christensen Brothers Construction. We're fortunate to have work to do, which is great. These kind of projects, government projects, there's not anyone from town that will work on it. Material possibly come from other places also. Government projects are always built to the lowest of specs. Whenever a government project is out, the government specs are to the lowest grade. I know he said that they're going to be built with maintenance-free siding, and anytime you give something to someone, especially the government giving something to someone, it's not taken care of. We see it in all aspects, no matter what color or race you are. As people talk tonight, home ownership, putting sweat equity into it, working on it, making you feel good that, man, I did this. Look how great this looks. Living in it, selling it, making a profit, going to the next one, just like another fellow had said. It makes you feel good. It's great. So I guess instead of encouraging more low-income housing, purchase what we have out there. Fix it up. There are many of them, many of them. People have said that tonight. I just drive around town and don't even have to look. It's there. So I guess I encourage you to vote no on this project. We don't need any more housing. We have, like my brother said, 180 lots in town, 170. 20-some brand-new homes that have been sitting out there. Some just sold that have been sitting there for 2 years, and they were expensive homes. So wherever you go, you'll see new homes for sale, and you'll see ones in the out in the outlying areas of Willmar for sale. So I encourage you to vote no on this, and to encourage young folks to go out there and be American and dig in and use your hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Anyone else? Anyone else? Any realtors want to talk? Anybody from HRA want to talk? Anybody from any organized group? Anybody else out in the hallway there, Roger? Anybody else want to talk? All right. Last chance for you to say something. Come on up. Good evening, Carol.
Hi, my name is Carol Lahmer. I live over in the north side. Back in the 70s, there was $3 million given to Willmar, and it was to rehab a part of the community, and it was the north side. It wasn't very nice to feel that I was living in the slum district on the north side, but that's kind of what it's called. And one of the things that happened when we first moved there was the neighbor lady, 2 houses over, came over with a plate of cookies. And another one down the way came over and greeted us. And pretty soon we felt comfortable living there. We liked living there. And even when we were told we were living on the wrong side of the tracks, lower income or lower houses, not as much value, we still liked it there and we stayed there. And I have to agree with Steve a little bit here where we talk about the things that we're against in this community. I know working on the Planning Commission we have to deal with facts. At this moment I'm talking a little bit about emotion. And is this project the best project for this community? I'm not sure. Some of the things that I saw at that presentation that Rich did last week I was impressed by. And instead of being against this project, maybe we should look at it and say to those folks coming into that community, welcome to our community, welcome next door. And you need some help with your kids for babysitting while you have to go to work for you, the 2 of you to maintain your living and pay the taxes and that type of thing. How about some of those folks speaking up and say, okay, what about some of the folks that are the retired folks? What about their grandchildren coming to work in this community? And maybe they're those low-income folks to begin with. And wouldn't that be kind of neat to have one of your grandchildren just down the street from you? And so let's just talk a little bit about let's be for some of these projects in this community, and sometimes on an emotional level. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Anybody thinking about coming up to say something? All right, if not, then I will, last chance. Otherwise, I'll close it off for the public, the people in the audience to speak. And then I'll bring it back up to the council table here. Dorothy, did you want to say anything from HRA? Anything that you wanted to comment on? You're the director of HRA. Do you want to give you the opportunity if you want it?
I guess I'd only like to say that...
Introduce yourself, Dorothy.
I'm sorry. Dorothy Gaffney, Willmar HRA. I would only like to say that the Housing and Redevelopment Authority in and for the City of Willmar, as well as the Candioi County Housing and Redevelopment Authority, have considered this project and offered its support by resolution. And I know that you heard a lot of comments, mixed emotions here tonight. I do believe that it's a viable project. I think it's going to be an opportunity for persons who are underserved or unserved to have an opportunity for home ownership. I think the income limits were a little misleading. The $58,000 that Rick commented on is for the immediate for sale properties. The income limits for the Section 42 Community Land Trust part of it are considerably lower than that. For a family of 4, they would be at 60% of area median.
Say that again, please.
For a family of 4, they would be at 60% of the area median income, which is $34,500. And then it's adjusted for family size anywhere from one person at $24,180 to 6 people at $40,020.
Any questions of Dorothy from the council members?
Yes.
Doug, or Councilmember Reese?
You said that the HRA supported it. I saw it in your minutes. The resolution that we're looking at passing as support and commitment to this project
Right.
states that this project is consistent with addressing a defined housing need and meets a documented community development need. You and I talked a little bit before the meeting, but I think that's the biggest question in my mind as far as the finding of need.
In terms of the housing needs assessment that was done on behalf of the HRAs by community partners, that was indicated that anywhere, I believe, I don't have the information right in front of me, but I think from 70 to 90 units, tax credit units, should be supported in this community. Also, I think this gives us an opportunity not only to have the tax credits but to combine it with the lease to purchase program, so it gives opportunity for people that probably ordinarily wouldn't be able to purchase a home to work into home ownership and do it on a basis where they're getting home ownership counseling, et cetera, during that process.
Councilmember DeBleek?
Thank you, Dorothy. I assume the figures you gave as far as the 24,000 and the 40,000 approximately figures, that's gross taxable income, or is that?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Councilmember Christensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm trying to figure out where this all started, Dorothy. How did this project originate? Was it because of the housing study, or was it because Southwest Minnesota Housing happened to own that property, or they had intended to do that when they bought the property, I suspect? I know when they first came to us to do Richland Avenue, they were going to propose the same kind of housing on Richland to go on the other acres. I mean, that's what they talked about when they were here in 2003. We're going to continue the project out there and keep those types of homes out there, and not twin homes, as Mr. Gary Peterson had stated earlier. But again, where did this originate? I mean, who brought this forward? Is it you, or was it a request from city staff, or was it from Mr. Goodeman? Who originated this? Where did it come from?
Actually, as I said, the Housing Redevelopment Authorities are partnering, and we both support this project. Last year, when the project was brought before the City Council, it was actually on a different site. It was on Southeast Willmar site. We had identified the need. We felt that that would be an appropriate site, and the city did support the submission of an application. However, the site was not approved, and so we looked at the possibility of doing it on the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership site that they already own. In fact, I think one of the city council members had mentioned that evening at the meeting that why didn't we consider, the site that the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership already owns. So we did pursue that.
Okay, thank you,
excuse me a minute. Where did it start, though? I mean, I still haven't had my question answered. Was it because of the housing study? And then someone said, well, let's put up low-income homes because the housing study says we need them? Or did an individual or did the chamber come to you, the EDC, or anybody else? Or are they just supporting it after you brought it forward?
We've had talks at various times with the Economic Development Commission, but as a result of the housing study, we looked at the possibilities of doing a tax credit project, and we felt that this was a viable project.
Thank you.
I'd like to just make a couple comments. it's been said, that we have housing available. I think we always have housing available. I don't know that we are ever fully saturated, that every house or every lot that's available is ever used. There's always land available. There are always houses for sale. The market is soft some years. It's harder other years. Real estate is not a static condition. It changes from year to year. There was comment made about who would live in these houses if they were built. And this is a piece of information that makes some sense to me, and that's that in Willmar, we have about 9,800 adult voters. When you add up all the people who are eligible to vote, we have about 9,800 people. The Job Service Center tells me that every day we have about 24,000 adults working in the city of Willmar. And so the city of Willmar is like a heartbeat. In the morning, there's a surge of people coming in from all directions. And at night, they surge out. And they go out, as far as, half hour, 45 minutes, an hour in their commuting time. And that happens every workday of the year. And so if these houses were built, my sense is that some of the people would relocate from within the community, some would come from outside the community, and there would be new employees coming into the community that might be looking for housing. That's where some of those resources would shift around. And I don't think it's all Willmar people that go from point A to point B. This is a regional center, and the people come and go from quite a ways out. So I think that's part of the issue here is this just a Willmar project, or is it a regional kind of project? And I think it's a regional kind of project. We've heard about, I've heard comments. One phone call came into me that I haven't responded to yet, saying we can't allow a blight like this to happen to the city. Well, when I look at these houses that are going to be built, that doesn't look like blight to me. That's new housing. That's brand new housing. And that doesn't look like blight. The issue of, well, we have plenty of affordable housing already. Why don't people go and remodel it? I don't know. I don't know why they don't go and remodel it, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't buy old housing and, remodel it. Some do. Many don't. And then, finally, I am concerned about what is emerging as kind of a negative attitude within this community, voting things down constantly. We have the reputation of being a progressive regional center in the state of Minnesota. And, lately, we seem to be, taking this posture that this is not good, and this is not good, and this is not good, and don't put it in my backyard. A few weeks ago, there was a large discussion about this pelletization plant next to a development project, and the developer came in and said, don't put it next to my don't put it next to my development. And then, certain council members said, no, that's all right, we should do that. And here we have a development project next to another development project. The logic isn't consistent. It's not consistent. And I think as a community, we have to come to grips with that. What is our image as a regional center, and what are the services and the resources that we are trying to make available within the community and for people to come to this community? I think we have to consider that. I want to thank everybody who took the time to be here tonight to make your comments and ask your questions. This is citizenship in action, and I appreciate your effort to be here. Now it's going to come back to the City Council table. I'm going to close off testimony from the, I was going to say pulpit, from the lectern, from the microphone. And now it comes back to the council, and what do they wish to do? Councilmember Reese.
There's two different actions that we have to take in this case if this is going to move ahead, is that right? There's the resolution of support, and then do we also have to pass the commitment of agreement?
I believe there's 3 resolutions, and Mr. Goodman can correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct.
First pardon? Which two? The resolution supporting and committing to the housing development project is one.
Second would be allowing the small cities application.
That's the
Pardon me?
cooperative agreement, or?
Okay. The second resolution is indicating is indicating support of the partnership's application for the Small Cities Development Program.
And with the cooperative agreement, well, with either one of them, one is just a commitment of support, but the other one is the cooperative agreement, which says that the city will apply for the $250,000 in funding, but the partnership will fill out the papers for the grant, correct?
The municipality is the only legal recipient of the Small Cities Block Grant dollars.
Okay.
Whether it was, and we've done this in numerous cases in the past on behalf of the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, which has consistently, over the years, administered the block grant program here in Willmar. This is a similar arrangement.
You know, and now we've had 3 council meetings, I think, in a row that we've had difficult decisions to make, and I've said, you know, you don't please all the people all the time, and there's difficult decisions to be made, and sometimes those decisions are not so popular. But we have to look at, and I know that's a subjective position, but we have to look at what's for the betterment of the community. And I think Mayor, you made a point of the number of people that are commuting into our city on a daily basis. And having the availability of this housing. So I would introduce the resolution of support and commitment, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution of the Willmar City Council for the support and commitment of a housing development project. Further comment about the Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have to make a couple comments. There were several disparaging comments made about Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership and Mr. Goodyman, and I would echo what Mr. Rehnquist said. That's an honorable organization, and they have a good product. You know, whether it's for us, I'm not sure, and that leads me to my concern. When I look at the resolution of support, I almost feel like I'm having words put in my mouth. That the documented critical need and consistent with addressing a defined housing need, I don't see the need. I honestly don't see that we have the need for this in the city of Willmar at this time. And I can't go along with supporting that resolution.
Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to fill in a couple of blanks very briefly, the housing analysis was completed in April of last year, and it did in fact identify the need for 70 to 90 housing units within the subsidized housing and tax credit markets. It is also projected that there will be a substantial increase in entry-level jobs in certain sectors of the community and within the next 6 to 12 months, and the need is continuing to expand. The figure that I have in front of me here is 194 new jobs. This is really, instead of calling it low-income housing, this is workforce housing. Now, when I moved to town 25 years ago, I took a job at the Tribune for $4 an hour, and I moved out to Elm Lane. I would submit to you that 25 years ago, that was workforce housing. And you try to better yourself. And this is what the folks that would be using this are trying to do. It's really no different than any of the rest of us have ever tried to do, better ourselves. If you don't care about getting ahead, you're not going to apply to go into this product. You're just not going to go there. I am and I mean this sincerely, I am honored to be elected from Ward 2. I've thoroughly enjoyed serving the folks in Ward 2 these past nearly 3 years. But I agree that there is a need, and I respectfully disagree with the idea that this is going to be a blight. And finally, I really need to say this, and I'm glad that Jim made his comments earlier. Because not just as a council member do I support this, but as a person of faith, I have to support this. I'm commanded by my faith to support this. When I look at all the different verses in the Bible that command me to not harden my heart against my neighbor, lend my hand to my brother in Deuteronomy. 1 John 3:17, about brothers in need. Any number of different verses command me as a person of faith to be open to people who don't have much. I respectfully disagree with my neighbors. I value each and every one of you, but I have to support this.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Why would we want to support something that we know is going to go to litigation? The former owner, Mr. Gary Peterson, just explained to us that he's going to be taking it to court because it was an arm's length transaction between an organization and a private party. There were some contingencies or covenants or something in that purchase agreement we don't know about, but it's guaranteed to go through the court system. Why not get that settled first before we do anything? So.
Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I must comment on the commuting to Willmar, all the jobs that come to Willmar, the thousands of them that do. I would suspect that a large percentage of those people coming to town do so by choice. Some of them don't want to live in Willmar. And we're building many homes north of Willmar for people that are leaving Willmar. Good citizens. We're having a hard time finding people to sit on our boards, our commissions. So the commuting thing, I think, is a moot point. The only people that will attract here with this particular development would be the lower income people that are commuting and maybe want to live in Willmar, but we don't know that they don't want to live in Willmar either. I mean, it's by choice. I suspect that anybody who wants to live here comes to Willmar to live here. We need to attract them here, but I think they're commuting by choice.
All right, we have a motion on the table, and it's been seconded. Are the council members ready to vote on this? Anybody else want to comment anything before we vote? I have a point of clarification with our city attorney. Rich, are you back there? Thanks. Earlier tonight, Councilmember Christensen stated that he is a general contractor and he's in competition, with housing with Mr. Goodeman. Is there any problem with him voting on this motion, Rich?
It would be an apparent conflict of interest.
But as the city attorney, can he or can he not vote?
That's up to him. It's an apparent conflict of interest.
All right. Ron, I'll leave that in your hands then.
I didn't hear what he said. Apparent?
Apparent conflict of interest.
I have no financial gain whatsoever.
All right. We have the motion and it's been seconded. Roll call, Kevin?
Councilmember Reese. Aye. Christensen.
No.
Anderson.
No.
Swenson.
No.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
No.
Fagerly.
No.
DeBleek.
Aye.
3 ayes, 5 nays.
The motion does not carry. The motion is defeated at this point. Again, I wish to thank everybody for coming in tonight and your comments. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. Thank you. We are going to reconvene the city council meeting at this point. And the next item on the agenda is a Community Development Committee report for July 10th, 2007. Councilmember DeBleek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First item on our agenda was staff presented an ordinance adopting the new 2007 Minnesota Building Code. The new code went into effect July 10th, and jurisdictions have a reasonable amount of time within which to formally adopt the code. Including with the code was a proposed revised fee schedule which sets fees approximately midway between the 1994 code and the current 1997 code. Was noted that Councilman Christensen objected to the fee schedule based on valuation. His suggestion was that the fee schedule should be a better representation of the estimated amount of time the building official actually spends reviewing plans and inspecting the construction. It was noted concerns that the city was taking in more than it cost to provide the services, and staff recommended that to move the process along, the ordinance be introduced with the current fee schedule, and that any change in the fee schedule be part of the 2008 budgeting process. After discussion, there was a motion made to introduce the resolution for a hearing on August 6th and keep the current 1994 fee schedule. And I'll introduce that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to introduce the ordinance for a hearing on August 6, 2007, keeping the current 94 fee schedule. Comment about that or questions? Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My understanding is that each year the city has to file a report with the state of Minnesota talking about how much fee revenue we took in and what our expenses were in terms of building inspections. And I asked Mr. Peterson for a copy of that report, and it shows that we do not take in enough to cover our expenses by the time we account for all of this. And I'm looking at fee revenue and expenses associated with building permits and inspections. For the previous calendar year, total fee revenue was approximately $338,000, and building inspection expenses was $376,000. And that fee revenue and expenses associated with development was about $315,000 in revenue, and the expenses were about $352,000. I would like to know why we are not looking at increasing the fee structure if, in fact, this is what it actually costs the city of Willmar to do this.
Councilmember DeBleek.
You know, I guess the committee discussed that and felt that this time there was possibly better left up to the finance committee to make that decision through the budgeting process. So,
and I'm fine with us going there at that time, but it just seems odd to me that we aren't covering our expenses, and if we're concerned about making sure that government pays for itself, that we should be looking at raising this. And that's the point that I would wish to make tonight.
Anyone else? All right. The motion then is to introduce the ordinance for a hearing keeping the 94 fee schedule.
So, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Reese.
So, from what I'm understanding, what's in the minutes, it says that we're going to keep the current fee schedule, and then can we change it during the budget process?
I think basically this is setting a public hearing.
Anytime you want.
this is setting a public a public hearing to look at the adoption of the 2007 building codes, and with the fee schedule to be determined later through the budgeting process. So.
Councilmember Anderson? You look
I'm
perplexed.
genuinely confused. The building code and the fee schedule, don't they go together?
In an ordinance, yes.
So, I'll go back to what Councilmember Reese said. If it's going to go through the budgeting process, why are we doing it now? Why don't we see what the recommendations would be? I don't understand.
I think that Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I think that it was brought to the Community Development Committee in an attempt to adopt the new building code at the city's earliest convenience. We've been on the 94 fee schedule for some time now, and we have this discussion every time we adopt the revised state building code. If in fact the council decides through the budgeting process that it wants to revise its fee schedule, then it would simply introduce a new ordinance at that point to do so, if you don't do it now.
Okay. I think at the committee, staff did bring a modified fee schedule. I think it was a 1997 fee schedule forward. It was discussed at the committee, but that was not a recommendation from the committee. I think we could, with going with some of Mr. Gardner's information, if the council wanted to make a amendment to that motion that I put forward, I think it would be possible to do that.
Does anybody want to make an amendment to the motion on the table to go to fee schedule for 1997?
Yeah, and that fee schedule is also included in the packet.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the schedule that was presented to the committee was an attempt on our part to find some middle ground, recognizing the sensitivity of these fee schedule discussions over the years. I think we also recognized that it was unlikely that the council could or would support a fee schedule based on the 2007 state building code. In addition to that, we looked at the numbers, similar to what Mr. Gardner made reference to on that form, and tried to project as best we could what would be an appropriate revenue stream, and ended up with recommending that middle-of-the-road approach.
Councilmember Reese.
So if this were adopted with the 97 schedule, when does that go into effect versus waiting for the budget process so that we can match number for number?
It'd go into effect when, with the ordinance. Now, what you're doing tonight is setting a hearing for August 6th. And then if you, following that public hearing, adopted the new building code ordinance with the revised fee schedule, it would go into effect when it was published. So it would be August of '07.
But if we waited, went through the budget process, we probably wouldn't make a change to the fee schedule until possibly January 1st after our...
Yeah, you know, we usually have our budget meetings in November, and if the council felt in late November that it wanted to make that adjustment or revision, it would likely be introduced the first meeting in December, heard that the second meeting and take effect on January 1.
And what you're telling me is the 97 schedules through that form that was prepared by Bruce's department, utilizing the 97 schedule, we may have a balance? I mean, it's your best guess.
We think
That's what
that it
you're-
would be closer to netting out all the costs, yes.
Right now, Mick, according to that state report, it looks like the city is losing $48,000 a year. Is that correct? Bruce, do you know that?
Mayor Heike, members of the council, with the process that staff follows and the directions that the state provides for the completion of that form, and using a cost accounting for the costs that are involved in the inspections and plan review process, those numbers would give a fair representation of the spread between income and expense for the building permitting and inspections process.
So right now, the city is losing $48,000 a year through their building inspection program.
Well,
am I overstating that, or is that what it is?
I don't know that
I
I
use the
would
word losing. I think
characterize it as losing. By having the 94 schedule in place, we have not been able to capture as much as we would under the 97 schedule, based on the construction activity that's taking place in the community this year.
All right.
And that's going to vary every year. I mean, some years, you know, we've, over the past few years, have been fortunate to have seen some major projects constructed in Willmar, and that's had somewhat of an impact. If we were to realize downswing in construction activity, of course, those revenue streams would be lower.
Mm-hmm. All right. Council, we have the motion. You ready to vote? Any amendments to the Councilmember Christensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city is not losing any money. As a matter of fact, as I recall, in the last 9 to 10 years, there's been a surplus every year. Building fees collected, new construction versus what it costs to run that office. If you will recall, not too long ago, we decided to take, I don't know how many thousands of dollars out of that surplus to help pay for that airplane to come to Willmar. And that was just a minor part of the surpluses that we've had. I would suspect it's well over $1 million in the last 10 years. It's maybe $2 million.
Well, Ron, I think you're throwing out numbers here that you're going to have to substantiate. I mean,
well, we could ask Mr. Peterson to substantiate and bring us to the hearing. It's very easy. I've got some records at home from the early 90s to the late 90s telling us what the surplus was. I requested that at that time. I have not received it in the last several years. I've asked for it a few times, even at meetings. Mr. Mayor, I don't like to be told an untruth by anybody. We are not losing money through building permit fees. My argument, I'm fine with the 94 schedule leaving it as is. Going to the 97, one of the percentages he put in here is raising it about 4%, okay? Which doesn't seem like a whole lot. But it may be to somebody who's going to build a new home. Presently, the fees are about close to 1% of the cost of the building project. $200,000 house, $2,000, somewhere in that area. I'm fine with that 94 fee. But I don't like charging based on valuation. I've brought this up many times. To me, charging by valuation of a home is like a police officer charging a parking ticket on a car depending on the value of the car. It just doesn't make sense. If you have a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, double-attached garage, it costs the same amount to inspect that home, whether it's $200,000 or $400,000. There's no more time involved. But I don't question the 94. I'm fine with it. The 97 one, Well, let the council decide.
Mr. Mayor, as a point of clarification, the history of the construction activity that takes place in the community in any given year, and probably for the last 10 years, the amount of construction valuation and permit fees charged are included in our annual report to the City Council every year. You don't have to go very far to find that information.
Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do hope that the council member was not suggesting that we were bringing untrue figures to the table with this. This is a report that the city is required to submit to the state of Minnesota, and I don't think they make this stuff up, and that there's a very sound factual basis for this report. I'm just asking the question, seeing as though it seems to be an extremely recurring theme over and over again that we have to somehow pay our way, that I just want to make sure that we're paying our way. I mean, I'm here over and over again, that is a duty that an elected body has to the taxpayers. And I just want to make sure that we're doing right by the taxpayers in this.
Okay, does anybody want to make an amendment to the motion? All right, then we're back to the original motion, and that's to have a public hearing on August 6th, keeping the current 94 fee schedule. All right, roll call, Kevin? Simple motion. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no.
Abstain.
All right, the motion carries. Go ahead, Bruce.
Item number 2 was presented an ordinance to adopt the new 2007 Minnesota State Fire Code, including chapters B, C, and D. And this code also went into effect July 10th, 2007. And local units of government have a reasonable amount of time within which to formally adopt the code. Following discussion, a motion was made and seconded to introduce an ordinance for hearing on August 6th of 2007. And I'll introduce that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to have a public hearing on August 6th to consider the new fire code ordinance. Comment? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Item number 3 is fire marshal policies. Was presented a recommendation changes to the policy of the Willmar Fire Marshal. These policy guide developers and contractors in the uniform and consistent application of the fire safety principles related to the fire code. Following discussion, a motion was made and seconded to adopt the revised Willmar Fire Marshal's policy. And I'll introduce that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the revised Willmar Fire Marshal policies. Comment? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Item number 4 was unsafe buildings. The committee discussed the staff process with effects to pursue voluntary compliance with orders to repair or remove unsafe structures. Earlier this year, 20 notices were sent out to property owners asking that unsafe structures be removed or repaired. 17 property owners, or 85%, complied with these orders. Staff requested direction in pursuing compliance with the other 3 property owners, beginning with the council declaration that the structures are unsafe or hazardous. The committee discussed the process available to the city under Minnesota statutes. Following discussion, a motion was made and seconded to formally declare the structures as unsafe and hazardous, and that the matter be referred to the city attorney for follow-up under Minnesota statutes, chapter 463.15 and 463.26. And I'll introduce that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a, is this a resolution? No, just a motion, to declare structures as unsafe and hazardous and refer to the city attorney for action. Further comment? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, second item under that is the committee also discussed the exterior storage of unsafe building issues at the Willmar boiler business on 19th Avenue Southwest. Numerous attempts have been made over several years to achieve compliance, but the owner has evaded all attempts to date. It is noted that the cost to gain compliance would be substantial. There are numerous existing liens and judgments against the property that would make reimbursement to the city difficult should the city have to incur costs to clean up the site. The committee discussed the issue existing at this site and possible alternative remedies to achieve compliance. Following discussion, there was a motion that was made and seconded to formally declare the metal building unsafe and hazardous, to refer the matter to the city attorney for follow-up under Minnesota Statutes Chapter 463.15 to 463.26, as well as to pursue the zoning violations related to exterior storage. And I'll introduce that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to declare the metal building unsafe and hazardous at the Willmar boiler business on 19th Avenue and Southwest and refer this to the city attorney. Further comment? Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A question for staff. Do we have an idea at all of what costs the city might incur if we pursue this?
Bruce, go ahead.
Councilmember Gardner. Yes, we've made an estimate in the area of $70,000 to $75,000. Since this matter went to the council committee last week, though, it's our understanding that there is an effort underway on the site to clean the site up and to make some major changes in conditions that could possibly include the sale of the property. So at least for the short-term, staff's intent would be to see how much compliance can be gained without too much effort on the part of our city attorney, and hope that we can gain significant compliance just by the owners. And it does, I guess I am somewhat encouraged by what's happened there in the recent past.
All right, anything else? Those in favor of the motion to refer to the city attorney say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried?
No.
You said no?
No.
7 ayes, 1 nay. Bruce?
Item 5 on their agenda was we had scheduled some discussion about signage and identification signs to be located in Central Business District. We've deferred that matter to a later meeting. And item 6 is the professional services agreement for appraisal services. Staff presented professional services agreements for appraisal services for the wastewater treatment plant, interceptor line, right-of-way acquisitions. The proposed agreements were with the Mike Elmo of Sox Center and Rulin Commercial Consultants Limited of St. Cloud. The council was informed, that should be the committee was informed, that a court order had been issued granting the city access to the property west of town for the purpose of surveying, appraising, soil borings, and environmental work, and that it was necessary to begin the appraisal process in the very near future. After discussion, there was a motion made, seconded, to adopt the resolutions approving the professional services agreements with the 2 appraisal firms as submitted, and to authorize the mayor and city council to execute the agreements. Now, I don't have a copy of those resolutions in front of me, but I will introduce the 2 resolutions.
One for each name, one for each corporation.
Okay. I will introduce a resolution for the Mike Elmo of Sauk Center.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to set up an appraisal contract with Mike Ammo of Sauk Center. Further comment? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, is that a roll call? All right, roll call.
Councilmember Christensen.
Abstain.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin. Aye. Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays, 1 abstention.
Ron, what's the basis of your abstention?
Just knowing the individual.
But I'd like to remind you that as an elected official, it is your duty to vote.
Aye.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Ron. All right, and the second resolution.
Second resolution is to Ruland Commercial Consultants Limited of St. Cloud. I'll introduce a resolution to enter into the service agreement with that business.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to enter into a second appraisal contract with Ruland Commercial Consultants Limited of St. Cloud. Further comment? Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin. Aye. Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes.
If there are no questions, Mr. Mayor, motion to file the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to file the minutes. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next are some municipal airport grant amendments. Mel, can you introduce this?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we've got 3 state grants involving the airport new construction that we are requesting to extend the deadline for completing it. They would be for the original grading, the second phase of the grading, and then finally the paving and lighting. So it would be kind of the first 3 main parts of the airport project, and all 3 of them would be extended until June 30th of 2009, and it is our intent to have it all closed out long before that.
All right, and you need 3 resolutions then?
That's correct.
Let's see, are they all listed here, Kevin?
Yeah.
All right, council?
Mr. Mayor, I'll introduce the 340149, the grading expiration date.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution, SP, I don't know what SP is.
State project.
State Project 3401-49. Further comment about that? Councilmember Dockin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What's the driving force or the cause for requesting these extensions?
They put a deadline on, or an end date on each grant, and until you have it closed out, you need to extend it if you don't have it closed out before the deadline. And the project is not completely closed out. And the deadline is up the 1st of July. The closeout reports have been submitted, it's just not completely closed out.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Roll call then?
Councilmember Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes.
Mr. Mayor, I'll introduce the resolution for State Project 340150, the grading and drainage and wetland mitigation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for, to extend the contract for State Project 3401-50. Further comment? Roll call?
Councilmember Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes.
And last, I'll introduce the resolution for State Project 3401-53, the paving and lighting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to extend the contract for State Project 3401-53. Comment? Roll call?
Councilmember Dockin.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Bruce, you want to file the minutes? Oh, was that separate?
No, you did that.
We did that one.
We did it.
Well, that wasn't part of your minutes.
Wasn't part of it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Under miscellany,
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a question, though, on the airport, since this was regarding that. Are we squared away with HNTB, or where are we sitting there? Have they been paid in full?
No, sir, they have not.
And the amount we owe them, is it like...
Want to take a
Well-
stab?
Other than taking a stab at it, are we kind of negotiating or talking to them about some of the...
Well, we have some issues that we need to work out with them before we would consider recommending final payment to the council.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, under miscellany, I just want to inform the council and our citizens that about a week ago, maybe 10 days ago now, I received an email from the Northwest Foundation inviting me to participate in a trip down to Mexico in October. The Northwest Foundation is funding what is called the Raíces program. Raíces is located in 4 states. It's located in Minnesota, Iowa, Idaho, and Oregon. And each of the programs are funded through the Northwest Foundation. And the basic concept of Raíces is to assist people of Latino background to improve their lives and move themselves out of poverty into productive work, employment, school, etc. And then it includes a wide range of services. And in our community, that office is established over at the WEAC Center. And Maria Diaz is the director of Raíces. They, in turn, then, have set up this trip and invited 3 people from each state. And the 3 that are going, in each of these 4 states, Raíces is only in 1 city in each of the 4 states. I don't know the names of the cities in Iowa, Idaho, and Oregon, but Willmar is the only city in Minnesota. And they've invited 3 people from Willmar to go. The 3 are Rob Anderson, the principal of Willmar High School, Kathy Schwantes, the associate director of the Economic Development Office, and I was invited. And the trip leaves, I think it's about October 5th or 6th, something like that, and it goes for about 8 days. And I don't know more details yet. They're just getting started on organizing everything, but that's what's happened so far. It was an invitation, unsolicited, and the 3 of us were invited to go along with these other 9 people. So as it gets closer, I'll keep you informed. Anything else for the council under miscellany? Otherwise, we'll go to committee meeting dates.
No.
Oh, we got this on-sale liquor license.
Oh, thank you. Kevin, do you want to introduce that?
Mayor Heike, members of the council, the police department has concluded their investigation for the on-sale liquor application for Dwayne Mark Dunau, who will try to open the former Van Andy's nightclub under the trade name of Double D Club. Pursuant to that investigation, they have found everything in order with this individual, and we have not yet received the insurance. However, staff is recommending that we approve the license contingent upon the city attorney approving the various certificates of insurance that must come with the application.
All right, thank you. Council?
Mr. Mayor, move to approve the license contingent upon the approval of the insurance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this application. Any other comments? Councilmember Christensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is this a local person or somebody coming from out of town, do we know?
Out of town.
And did he formerly work at this establishment?
No, he is a retired chief of police, I believe, of Arlington, Minnesota.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Aye.
Dublik.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes. Council Ron?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After conferring with our city attorney, I'm going to change my vote to abstain on that Westwind Estates project.
All right, I think the vote still carries 4-3 then, with one abstention. All right? Thank you, Ron. Anything else? All right, committee meetings, finance.
No meeting for finance, Mr. Mayor.
Public Works, Public Safety.
Tuesday, the 24th, 4:45.
July 24th, 4:45. Community Development
Not scheduled, Mr. Mayor.
and Labor.
Mr. Mayor, Labor Committee will meet on Wednesday, the 25th at 4:45.
July 25th, 4:45, Labor. And the Housing Task Force, which is a public meeting, is scheduled to, what did I say, the
Second and fourth.
second and fourth Monday at the Fire Hall, beginning at 6:30, with the intention of adjourning no later than 8:30. Any other announcements or committee meeting dates? I think we have something from COPS, Jim, don't we? Or was that last week?
I didn't bring the notices, but I know there are meetings scheduled.
Hold on, I think I had it here, unless I lost
Mayor,
it.
Ward 1 meets tomorrow night at the Senior Citizen Center.
Ward 1, July, what would that be?
17th.
July 17th at the Senior Citizen Center at 7?
7 p.m.
7 p.m., Ward 1, COPS meeting. Steve?
I've got two announcements related to our department, Mayor Heidke. On Monday, July 30th, we're planning an open house, grand opening of the Robbins Island Disc Golf Course.
Super.
Starting at 4 o'clock till 7 p.m., we'll have an introduction to that recreational activity with door prizes and items like that. Then the following night, Tuesday, July 31st, is our conclusion of Passport to Recreation, which is celebrating National Recreation Month, which is the month of July. So the 31st at the Aquatic Center from 4 to 8, we'll have a little celebration of our summer activities throughout the city.
4 to 8 p.m. on July 30th at Robbins Island.
4 to 7 on the 30th, 4 to 8 on the 31st at the Aquatic Center.
Oh, okay. Aquatic Centers, 4 to 8. Okay. I saw people playing that disc game this weekend. They were having a great time out there. It's really a nice 9-hole course. Maybe Mr. Schmidt will go out and play it sometime.
Yep,
Absolutely. Anything else before the council tonight? Councilmember Dockin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ward 4 COPS usually meets the fourth Monday, and that would be the 30th.
Okay.
I haven't heard that's changed.
That should be scheduled, and if I may say one other thing, Mr. Mayor.
Calvary Lutheran Church, 7 o'clock.
Okay, July 30th at 7 o'clock, Ward 4, Calvary Lutheran Church COPS meeting. Okay? Jim, were you going to say something?
The first Tuesday of every August is National Night Out, and again, we're planning a major community celebration at Robbins Island. So it's a family event where we try to have displays, emergency vehicles, et cetera there, and we're planning that first Tuesday in August. That's National Night Out. That might be the first, I believe, August 1st this year.
Anybody know? First Tuesday in August?
Or is it 7th? 7th, okay, the other way. Then it's August 7th.
August 7th. August 7th, Robbins Island, at what time about?
We usually feed you, so I think we start at about 5:30 and go till 7:30. And then we encourage local block clubs, et cetera, to get together after that.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
We'll have an announcement and a flyer at the next council meeting.
Anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to adjourn. We are adjourned.